So welcome everyone to this new book author series that is being hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center and UofM Detroit Center. Thank you everyone for participating. Because we're now going virtual due to this current situation, we are lucky enough to be able to interview wonderful artists from different places that are outside of Michigan. One of them, Paul Batou, he's an artist and an author. And I met Paul in 2007. We were forming the Iraqi Artists Association at that time. And I had the pleasure of meeting him, and he introduced me to his book at the time. It's called My Last Thoughts About Iraq. It's a wonderful book that includes images and poetry. And over the years, we stayed in touch. I ended up writing a book called Iraqi Americans. It's a series, and it was about, one of the series was about Iraqi artists. And he's included in that book, of course. Then years down the line, that's how intrigued I was with his artwork. I ended up asking him permission to use one of his beautiful, gorgeous art pieces for my book cover that I wrote. It's called Mesopotamian Goddesses. So I want to bring that up. Hi, Paul.
Hi. Thank you, Chaldean Cultural Center, and thanks everybody who's watching us. And hope you and families are well and healthy.
Now, we would have loved one day you'll be able to join us in person, and we'll be very happy to have another discussion where people can meet you live. But for now, you know, the amazing thing that I have found when I wrote the book about Iraqi American artists, really aside from their artwork, is the stories behind their artwork. I would, if you could share with us a little bit, what you were born in Iraq. If you can share a little bit your background and how that has influenced your art today.
Yeah, I was born in Iraq, 1959. In a tiny village, northern Iraq, at the border of Turkey called Tin. 1959, 60 or 61, this Kurds start like invading us. They end up burning our village. Then our refugee status began. Like we moved to Sarsing, then to different cities, the Hope, then we end up in Nineveh. Then eventually we end up in Baghdad. That was the last station.
And were you able, you had mentioned, were you able to study in Baghdad? I remember there were some, due to some political tensions that interfered with your education as well during that time?
Yeah, Baghdad, I wasn't accepted in elementary school because we didn't have ID. All our ID was burned. Like we didn't have any paper, we are refugee. But I could join like a Catholic school at that time, and my aunt was able to pay for that tuition until junior high. I got an ID and joined the government schools.
And then what did you do as you got older, and what led you to leave Iraq?
I tried to join art school after high school, but they told me it's closed only to Ba'athist party members. I studied the case in my mind to join the government party and go to art school, but I decided not. My degree was able me to join the pharmacy school. So I joined the pharmacy school. At that time, I found we have an art studio and a music studio. So I joined the art studio and trained with a famous Iraqi artist for 4 years. Of course, after graduation, we have to join the army. It was 1982, 83, where the war with Iran was intense. So I joined the army and served for 5 years. After 5 years, when I was dismissed from the army, I found no future. Like it's nothing for me here. So I decided to leave. 88 to Greece, then end up in USA.
You know, so going back to this where you couldn't go into art school because you're not a Baathist. When I interviewed, this was something new to me, that when I was interviewing the various artists, I realized that, you know, they couldn't get educated in their field because of that. Was that the situation for most of the education, or is that just for certain types of schools?
You see, and I write the
Pharmacist, but you couldn't go into the other department.
no, it wasn't like prohibited from you to go to another department. Well, in pharmacy school, they bother me every year, like maybe every month, sometimes every week to join the party. But I managed to escape that. How I escaped
That pressure, despite
that pressure. In my childhood, when we were kids, like age of 8, 9, and back then, I was playing with so many like Arab kids in the neighborhoods. And one of them, I saw him in a pharmacy school. So he remembered me. Do you remember we kids playing? That created a great connection. That guy, he became very powerful in Baath party. And I told him, like, this is my desire. I'd like to stay independent. He told me, don't worry, I will protect you. So I got that protection for 4 years, 5 years from him.
Interesting. But so you were able to practice at least your artwork, even though, given the situation, you were studying to be a pharmacist, and you still practiced your artwork.
Yeah. But it's fine, like, you can't express your freedom. That's why in pharmacy school, I try to learn music. I play guitar, I write a poem, I paint, all these to escape the pressure of not having freedom. Like, these provide me with freedom within myself to write what I like to do, to paint, and to play a music I like. It wasn't easy. Like, it wasn't easy though. It was a fine. I have to paint or something for the government, but all my painting at that time was human, like about the war, about the government, it's always related to human beings. So it was okay. Like, they asked me to paint something about war, to praise the government. I did an old painting of Al-Qadisiyah battle. It was between Arab and Persian, and they hang it in the university, and was good painting for them. Like, that kept them away from me a little bit.
Yeah, the stories are so similar in nature, in that other artists I had interviewed said some of them did get a little bit political, and they actually experienced worse situations. The ones that didn't want to get involved, or they kind of went against the government, they experienced the worst situation. And there was a particular woman that I interviewed one time. She told me how she had to paint in secret just because she didn't want to get involved. And so every time they wanted her to do something for the parade or something like that, she found ways to avoid it by saying she doesn't paint anymore. It was actually Emily Porter. I don't know if you've heard of her. She worked at the museum before, and she said she always found a way to, to get out of it. But it's interesting that, but she continued to paint. And that's your story too, is that despite the whole situation, you guys were consistently working. Now, what happened to this artwork that you did in Iraq? Were you ever able to bring it with you, or is it something that's still there?
No, only, I think there was hanged in Iraqi museum, was loaded, the art museum, and one of them still, a big one in northern Iraq. It's with my mom collection in the village. But I couldn't bring anything, only paper, poets, and some notes.
Fascinating. And then what happened after that? At some point you left Iraq. What was that like?
89.
In 89?
Yeah.
And did you come directly to the United States, or what was your journey?
No, I was like 9 months in Greece. I was lucky, like, to stay that short period. In Greece, I did some painting also to a Greek family, write some poems there. It lasted our short period in Greece, 8 months, 9 months, then we came to Los Angeles.
Oh, that's a short time, yeah. And then, and that's where you've been living since then, since you came to the United
Yeah.
States at your home, Los Angeles. Yeah. So I want to show some of your artwork that you have sent me. Obviously, you have, I mean, anybody can just Google your name, and the amount of artwork that you've produced, it's just enormous and it's really beautiful. One of which, like I mentioned, is the one where I picked this one for my book cover because, yeah, this one right there. Now, my niece and I were making these decisions together, and she's an artist as well. And we had a hard time picking from your beautiful paintings because they're so happy, and the painting, the colors, you pick such, you know, no matter what the situation, like looking at your artwork, you just feel like you enter a different world because of the colors. And then there's a lot of emphasis on women and unity, whether it's the women amongst themselves or as a community. There's emphasis on music. There's just a lot of romance in your artwork. And so it's very rare that I have seen something dark. Even the dark ones have something so beautiful, like there's still some mystery and romanticism in it. So I really love your artwork. And this attracted us because of the colors, the women being able to be so expressive. And I assume these are, the lettering is that Aramaic or what lettering? I never asked about that.
Yeah, they are.
They're Aramaic. Is there a particular word that's behind there, or just what are the words that you chose?
Mostly, sometimes not. Like, I'm a full-time pharmacist still. Like, I have few hours to paint.
You have a life. Well, actually, that's what's more even amazing, that you continue to produce despite the fact that, you know, you have all these responsibilities.
No, sometimes. So the work is so stressful. Like, it's stressful. Nowadays, it's more like it's different than 90s. Now it's becoming more stressful. When I finish work, I come to home, I try to close my eye for 15, 20 minutes, and then come to my studio, either playing guitar or just paint. That's why you see the beautiful colors, the happiness, just an opposite the stressful time I spend in the pharmacy.
So this is, yeah. And you know, that's exactly what the feeling that it gives, that looking at it, it takes away all your problems and you enter into a different world and you think like, yeah, this is really, there is such beauty that exists in life. And then my last thoughts about Iraq, I have a copy here. I don't know if you have one at hand. Is there a poem that maybe you can read for us, or I mean, you can read it a little bit later if you want to think of it, but I don't know do you have your book?
Yeah.
Okay, great. If you can, you know, I have all these, if you can see, I have all these yellow stickers here with poems that I like, and there are quite a bit of them. So I'm gonna let you pick the poem that you like to read. We would love to listen to it.
This book, it's unique to me. Like, I collect so many phrases and sentences from Iraqis in the streets or during living there in the army while I'm sitting, chatting with them. I collect them in small pieces, and still I have small pieces. And I built a poem on that phrase or that sentence I heard. In 2005, I did an art show in LA called My Last Thought About Iraq. Of all these poems in my book, and I painted 28 pieces, introduced them to LA. They liked them because mostly they were in Arabic calligraphy. And the art show was sold. And the gallery owner, he told me, I will print these poems in a book. So he helped me to do that. And that was my first book. If somebody collect this book, My Last Thought About Iraq, this is a story of every single Christian in Iraq, whether he's Assyrian, Chaldean, Syriac, whatever he wants to call himself. This is his story, the story of refugee life. We lived as a gypsy in our country. We're moving from one place to one place, finding peace or shelter. and it's memorized in this very, very tiny book.
Great. Yeah, so please read us a few poems if you could.
You want me to read one poem?
Yes, please. Yep.
I choose identity. This is like when United Nations launch an airstrike to kill all Iraqis and destroy the country. So here I'm saying, I am not Assyrian or Chaldean or Akkadian. I am not a Christian or Muslim or Buddhist. I am a human. I was born in Mesopotamia, Urk, Nippur, Shuruppak, and Sipar. I was born in Babylon, home of Anu and Ishtar. I am a son of Enlil, Shemesh, and Gilgamesh. I am a son of Ishtar, Aya, and Nensu. I was killed once by a flood, and 1,000,000 times by a creature called a human, called country. I was killed by a nation or United Nation.
Thank you. You know what, that's another aspect of you that I always remember is when I was interviewing you and when we talked about your writing and when we talked about your art, it comes from the heart and from beauty and from love, and there isn't so much emphasis on the titles that sometimes get in the way of us appreciating the beauty that's out there and the feelings that anybody can relate to who was a refugee or anything like that. And I remember I was really touched by your description of that. But you know, it's not just what you say, it really is true. I've watched how you live since I met you in 2007. That's over 10 years of us, you know, being friends, I would say, just watching each other's works and things like that, being supportive. And you've stayed true to that first and foremost, you're a human being and you're an artist who expresses something that anybody can just be in touch with. There's no restrictions on, there's no restrictions that are caused by all these labels.
Yeah, I like simplicity, really just direct simplicity. Like to, human need now colors and love and peace. Last November, for example, last November, I was called by art gallery in here in Claremont, Square One Gallery. He told me like, why we don't do an art show about Akito, the festival of spring in Mesopotamia. Last November, I told him, okay, I will do one. How many pieces? He told me 35 pieces because we will put mostly in the gallery, and there's a restaurant, Italian restaurant next door also. He liked to have some of these paintings. So I told him, okay, I will do it. Let's plan for it. I wrote a poem, short poem, to memorize or to summarize all these 35 paintings. And the poem will read, this is in November last year. It's a very short poem. Peace upon you this spring, Ishtar, the queen of beauty and love. Peace to all plants and flowers. Peace to all birds and trees. Peace and love to all creatures on earth. Peace to you, bright sun, Shemesh. I created 35 paintings on this one. It's all about love, bird singing, music, and colors. And people can Google Akito or Akito in Claremont, art by Paul Batou. They will see all the painting to describe these poems. This is last year, and then in January, February, we have COVID-19, and the whole planet is in crisis.
Yeah, but artwork like yours, poetry, really, I think it's medicine for the soul, because if we get too caught up in the negativities of what's happening, then it just doesn't help our health, I think. So artists, writers, I think they can contribute to we need to make room for beauty regardless of what is happening. And I think that you help do that. Now, I want to give the people that have joined us the opportunity to ask questions if they have any. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat room and I can ask Paul.
William.
Yes.
I'm still waiting for my copy.
Oh no. You waited until today to ask me, so now you have proof. If I don't send it, I will send you copies. And today immediately, so I can make sure I can have you back to
I need your address too, so I will send you a copy of my second book. It's all art pieces. All my collection is in that book.
You know what? Your second art book, I ended up having to Google it and found that I didn't even know that you had a second book. I don't have it, but we can bring it up. Crystal, see if you can bring up his second one. It's called My People. I'm sorry, what was My Art,
My People.
That one, yeah. And that one, because like I said, I don't have a copy of that. I just realized that you even have a second book. Is that mostly artwork, or does it also include poetry and text and things like that?
No, I put a short story, my short story. This story was, it's my life story. It's 2 pages only. This was published in Iraqi Brains Between Exile and Assassination by David Youssef. And I have also 2 pages of essay, My Art, My People, and the rest are all art pieces. It's sections like about our culture.
This is a colored book. I mean, like I didn't, you know.
Yeah, 300 pages of colored art pieces.
Amazing, wow. See, I mean, honestly, how do you do that? So like, I have a question for you. Let me see if anybody has asked. How hard was it to start? Okay, there's a question for me, and you know what? I will use that question to also maybe hand it to you. So Gail has a question. She has Paul spoken to people of other faiths about his background and his art?
Yes, yes. I did so many lectures here with different people, different colors, different identity in LA, and yeah.
Yeah, again, and this is how I feel. What I've enjoyed about you is that you do make yourself available. There's no limitations on who you speak to, and you just because your art speaks to everybody, and we can see that. And also, just even from the conversations that you've had, and I've seen you give one presentation as well. Just very nice stories that you've shared. Another person.
Also, yeah, also I was chosen in New York, Alison Gorey Fine Arts to as the only American, 2 American, one was me and one was an artist from New York, to exhibit an art show called Art Piece. They chose each artist from one continent and to share their art through a struggle. And one piece was mine. It was a cover of my last book about Iraq. I think there was artists from Japan, there was artists from Africa, artists from Europe, and 2 artists from United States, me and 1 artist from New York.
You know, that brings me to this question. I'm wondering, because based on her question too, have you had the chance to visit the Middle East since you left? Have you had the chance to visit Iraq? Share your story or your art?
2014, I went to Iraq. Before the ISIS stormed the country.
And how was that trip? Were you able to share anything about your work, or was it just a family visit?
Just family visit. Really, I visit only northern part of Iraq. They advised me not to go to Baghdad because it wasn't safe. So only trips to villages, to northern part to see how our people live.
You know, you have in your story, the one that I wrote, something you said, I wonder if I would have been able to do what I'd done if I was still in Iraq. What do you think about that now? That was, you told me this in 2000, I forgot, I think the book was published in 2015. How do you feel about that now?
This is my story. Iraq was really, we didn't see, like some people, they say great Iraq. No, it wasn't great. Like, I never heard my parents, grandparents, they say we lived in peace there. No, for the Christian community or non-Arab community, it was very harsh and hard living. Like, we lived refugee, we moved from place to place. And I don't think in Iraq I could accomplish anything, because there is no democracy or no freedom. These are basic elements for artists to thrive and produce good work to humanity. But we love the country and we love to have peace, not only in Iraq, but across the world. Like,
right, it's like our heritage is from there, so regardless, there's still going to be always a connection. That's why whether you or myself, whether we're writing or we're representing that region somehow or another. And then someone asked here, how difficult was it to start a cultural center and museum? Well, that took a lot of years, and thankfully that our pioneers did persevere, because it was over 10 years. The Chaldean Cultural Center was formed in 2003, and the museum only opened 3 years ago. And the reason it's so important is because you know, outside of Iraq currently, Michigan has the largest concentration of Chaldeans. And when I find something like people, even in Michigan, not knowing that a lot of our community members still speak Surath, you know, a form of Aramaic, and they consider it a dying language. Well, it is somewhat, it's still spoken. And so I'm very happy, whether it's the Chaldean Cultural Center, whether the Assyrian Society, I think it's called in Chicago, whichever community creates a place, a haven for history, heritage, arts, and culture, especially of indigenous people that are on the verge of extinction right now. So it did take a while, but thank God that, you know, we've gotten this far with it. And now with the opportunity to do virtual contact, we can connect to many of these artists and our authors so that they can share their work. What inspires your color palette choices for your paintings? That's a question from Dina.
Dina, that's from Babylon. I used to visit Babylon every year. That's what the colors of Babylon. The walls, the grounds. And second thought is my culture, the colors of our clothing, our costume.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a more modern version, this painting right now, that this is more, you know, the Dupka.
Yeah, I have 3 of this, the same thing. One in picnic clothing, one in traditional clothing, and one in the parties, like how we dress in the parties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, again, like I really enjoy that you bring this, the unity, the music, all the beautiful aspects of,
like most of my collectors are Jewish, and I have Korean, they buying our painting. I have Korean collector, they buying our painting of traditional clothing. They like the colors, they told me.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that about the Jewish. So I found that the Jewish community, in some cases, I don't know, because they've been involved in rejuvenating their own history and culture and preserving their language and everything, but they're more aware of some of the history of the Chaldeans than the Chaldeans are, because given where we came from,
they have interest in our culture.
Yeah, because we went through so much oppression. I used to wonder, why is that? You know, why do we not know so much about our own heritage? Well, for one, you know, we could not, they didn't teach us anything past 1400 years ago in Iraq. And then there was all the oppression and the struggle and the wars that we went through. There was no space for art and culture and reading and getting to even know who we are. It took for me to come here and as an adult to start discovering my own heritage. I didn't even know what the word Chaldean is. I didn't know what the word Assyrian. These are things that were introduced to me here. But the Jewish community, the ones that come to our museum, I have found or have discussions, are aware of a lot of the things that we were just discovering. Mm-hmm. So they have a greater appreciation for that. But that's what we're trying to teach our own people about these things. So let me see, I think if there's a last question here. So this is the last question I'll take because our time is almost up here. Do you see your art as political? How do you see it being used by people outside of you, like other members of the diaspora? One of the first pieces of your art that I saw was the depiction of the many massacres that gets shared on the anniversary of Saifo.
Yeah, they can use it like this. Massacre happened in 1915, where they slaughtered a lot of Assyrian from Turkey, from Iran, and from northern Iraq. And they massacred them not because of their identity, they massacred them because they are, first place, they were Christian. And they used my art. Yeah, I did 100 years of genocide. I did mention all the places where Christians are massacred, including like in Iraq, Semel, some villages in northern Iraq and Nineveh. They can use that. Yeah.
100 years since
of genocide. Yeah, that's
when did you do that? When was what year?
1915.
So did you include the recent one with the 2014?
Yeah, yeah. All the massacre happened to our people in every region, whether they were Assyrian, Chaldean, Syriac, Armenian, or Yazidis. Well, these are facts. I have to do that. Like I have to mention that. Like as my family was victim, my grandma, she escaped Turkey to Lebanon, and where my mom, she born, and then moved to Iraq. Like we live in circle, like gypsy, traveling from places to places, and these affect our views and our inputs. I have to do every year something about the genocide.
Well, we thank you so much for bringing so much attention to our heritage, to our history, to our culture, and doing it in a beautiful and informative way, and doing it with multiple ways, including through paintings, through poetry, through books. So I really appreciate all your artistic work.
Like, not introduction to hate others and to hate other religion or to hate other people. No, these are facts. We will tell them as a history. We can't change that. But only love and music and art can change a human to be better and stronger.
Yeah, you are bringing awareness to something that happened, and we do that here in the United States as well. It's not about looking away from what's happening, but again, and from what I've seen, your focus is always the love and the unity, and you know, without shying away from the other truths that have happened. So again, Paul, thank you so much. And you know, one of these days, like I said, I hope that when you come to Michigan, we can do something, you know, a live setting, live lecture with you. But please keep me posted that when your next book or something else comes out, we would love to have you again.
Yes, thank you so much.
I think you're an inspiration to a lot of members of our community and outside of our community as well.
Yeah, thank you. I thank you so much. Like what you are doing in Michigan, really, the opening of museum and Chaldean Cultural Center is very great step. Like people would know our culture, our heritage, our language, our thinking, our colors, our political view. This is very important.
And it's also a way to unify. There's people, because of everything that has happened, happen to the people. They're all in different parts of the region, and we're hoping to kind of unify them somehow by showcasing them in through, you know, certain areas, like cultural centers or educational centers, or however we do it. But we have the technology now, thank God, and so we can do that kind of stuff.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining us, and there will be a recording of this that we'll share on social media, and we hope that you can join us next time again. Thank you.
Stay well, everybody.